Let's go ahead and get the meeting started. Can we do a roll call?
Paul Anderson,
Here.
Clara Andriola, Elise Bonkowski. Here. Charlene Bybee,
Here.
Chris Cobb,
Here.
Andrew Diss. Here. Jeannie Herman, Justin Ivory,
Here?
Miguel Martinez, Devon Reese, Craig Wessner.
Here.
That's it.
Perfect, thank you. What do we got? Item 2. These are items for the presentation, discussion, information. Do we have any public comment? Is that public comment now or at the end of this?
At the end.
At the end, okay. So let's go to 2.01, introduction of reappointment members, Chris Cobb, Public Works Construction Representative, and newly appointed member Craig Wessner. So welcome, Craig, and welcome back, Chris. Craig's a structural and civil engineer representative. They're both appointed to a 2-year term beginning July 1st, so about a month ago, and ending June 31st in 2026. 2.02, discussion and possible action to select a committee chair for the 2024-2025 committee year effective July 1st of this year and ending June 30th of next year from the current membership: Devon Reese, Miguel Martinez, Charlene Bybee, Paul Anderson, Clara Andriola, Jeannie Herman, Justin Ivory, Andrew Diss, Elise Bronkowski, Chris Cobb, and Craig Wessner for possible action. I'm just going to state real quick, I'd prefer not to be on that list, and I appreciate that, but I would like to maybe Member Anderson would be a good selection for the chair if everyone's okay with that. Any discussion on that?
I'd second that.
So we got a motion, we got a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh,
I just had
I'm
one.
sorry.
I wanted to see how Paul felt about it, and he does have an election coming up. So, but obviously, in any case, all the boards and commissions we're on, if we're not in office after that, those adjust. But I'd like to hear from Paul first.
Thank you, and yes, this is election season, but I do feel I could do well in the position and cover all the bases here, as well as running for office. So I'd be honored to accept that nomination.
It's always nice when somebody's not just thrown in the fire, and we all vote yes, and then it's a done deal. So just checking. Thank you.
That's you're working well for my bumpers because I just go right down the lane. So that is good, and I have no doubt you're going to do a great job of it. So that's the discussion. So all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nobody's opposed. So I'm going to immediately slide this over and let you take it from here. Thank you all.
That didn't take you very long. All right, with that, we'll move on to 2.03, discussion, possible action to select committee vice chair for the 2024-2025 committee year effective July 1st, 2024, ending July 30th, 2025, from the current membership: Devon Reese, Miguel Martinez, Charlene Bybee. I guess we could take Paul Anderson off. Clara Andriola, Jean Herman, Justin Ivory, Andrew Diss, Elise Bonkowski, Chris Cobb, and Craig Wessner. Do we have a motion?
No, go for it.
I'd like to nominate Elise Bonkowski, if she's so inclined.
I would accept that nomination.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have first made by council or member Bybee and second by member Ivory. And all those in favor, please signify by an aye.
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 All opposed? Passes unanimously. And we'll move on to welcome aboard. Item 2.04, approval of the minutes of the June 6, 2024 meeting for the Capital Funding Protection Committee. Any changes, concerns, questions? If not, I'm willing to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first by Member Cobb, first by Member Ivory, second by Member Cobb. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And it passes unanimously. Thank you. And we're on to 205, presentation discussion on construction phase funding for new elementary school instead, Silver Dollar area in the amount of $52,300,000. And this is discussion only presentation.
How's everyone? I'm Eddie Chacon, Assistant Director of Planning and Design for Washoe County School District. Sorry, can you turn it on? I can hear it myself. I'm here to discuss the Newstead Area Elementary Project for construction phase funding. Let me just make sure this clicker works. Perfect. Okay. Too far. Okay. We are very excited for our students, their families, and the Stead area community to keep our promise for preparing them for the future. Down below, you will see the Blue Star, where we acquired 8-acre parcel from D.R. Horton in 2019. This is the Silver Dollar development. This is the first new elementary replacement project as recommended by the Facility Modernization Plan approved by the Board of Trustees December of 2023. On this slide, we are showing the modified site prototype design. The new ADAPT design is 88,458 square feet with 30 classrooms compared to the original design that only had 28 classrooms. The capacity will be 738 for this new design. Here's a rendering of the front of the site with the color scheme selected. On this slide, we are showing the Stead area zoning map, which includes Stead, Silver Lake, Desert Heights, and Lemon Valley Elementary Schools. Per the Facility Modernization Plan recommendations, the existing Stead Elementary School will get repurposed. Silver Lake and Desert Heights Elementary School will get a renovation, and the Lemon Valley Elementary School will get a reconstruct. If rezoning is needed in the future, it will go to the Zoning Committee for review. We are requesting $52.3 million for this project. Here we are showing past projects, actual cost of the similar type of schools built between 2019 and 2023. We hired Cumming Group as a third-party cost estimating consultant. The requested amount includes owner contingency, escalation, professional services, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. This will be a single bid to allow general contractor to manage full scope under one contract. After funding is approved, we will start the bidding process on September of 2024, award construction October of 2024, and start construction November of 2024. We will have substantial completion done by May of 2026 and school opening August of 2026. Our next steps after today are to take this to the Board of Trustees for approval of the $52.3 million for construction funding on August 13th of 2024. And then after the bidding process, go back to the Board of Trustees to award the construction contract. That is the end of the presentation. I would like to thank all of you for allowing us to share this information with you. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. Questions, Member Bybee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple questions.
Yes.
On the repurposing, and I'm going to have this for our other schools too, but for this one, is it Stead? I've got to find my page.
Yeah, so Stead Elementary.
Elementary, existing Stead, what will that be repurposed to?
Correct. So we plan to have a community outreach to decide the future of the existing site. No plans as right now, but we will communicate with the community, try to see what we can do the best for that existing site.
So it will be a Washoe County School District site repurposed for another way to utilize it with community
At
input
this
on what that
point,
is.
we could use it as our own site, or we could talk to the community and see if they want something there. I
Okay.
don't know if you guys got anything else.
Tammy, do you want to elaborate on that? I mean, are we looking at community center, I know that, and I appreciate that because I would really like community input, but kind of what the potential, because you've got several schools coming up on another project, that when you say repurpose, kind of where are we going with that?
So for the record, Tammy Zimmerman, Chief Facilities Management Officer. It could be a purpose that the school district needs, but at this time, we don't believe we have a need out there. So we're reaching out to all the jurisdictions, the cities, all of our community partners, whether it be Boys and Girls Club or even outside of that, to see if they might have a need to have a presence in the North Valleys. So it may be
Okay.
multiple tenants, because maybe they don't need all of it. So we'd like to service the community out there with their best interest in mind.
Okay, and if that's the case and it becomes something private or, or with one of the municipalities, then whatever we sold it for would be money that went to the school district for
So
a general fund?
The intention isn't to sell the property, right? Because we want to make sure that we have forward thinking in case something happens. We have space if we need it. But right now, we would look at some sort of a lease or a partnership with our community partners, whether it be a jurisdiction, like I said, or other nonprofits that might need space out there. We won't be divesting it out of our portfolio right yet, because we don't know. There's lots of, there's could be other things that come up, and we might need that space. So for right now, we're going to keep it in our portfolio and offer it out to community partners.
Okay, but that would be a source of revenue.
It could be, absolutely.
Okay. The other question I had was on the construction phase funding request of 52.3 million. I'm looking at our last project was J Wood Raw, opening in 2023. Actual cost 37.5. I know inflation, but why? Because the community's going to ask us, why are we already, we just kept inching up from the time we passed this WC1 to today. So we're going to have a lot of questions from the community of why is the cost as
Yeah,
high?
so with the other 4 schools that are up there, those are the same type of prototypes. The previous 4 sites were pad ready. The developer gave us a pad to work on and all those. On this one, this site is not pad ready, so we have to construct the pad. Also, the 2 additional classrooms for this site, that is more cost to it as well.
Any other questions? Mr. Ivory?
Okay, just to follow up on a couple of Member Bybee's questions here. So if Stead Elementary is repurposed, would the tenant improvement costs come through this committee?
Yes, in the facility modernization plan, for every facility that we would own that has repurposing, there are dollar amounts that were set aside in that program to allocate for any of those tenant improvements that are needed.
Okay, and then with that being said, usually tenant improvement consists of, some, where the cost is, I guess, taken on by the tenant themselves and then reduces their rent or whatever, but however that works, if we do the remodel here and we pay for that, then will the lease payments be made to the capital funding portion, or will they go to the general fund, to the school district?
They can go into our sites fund, which we use to work out other items at our site. So it could go into our site fund, which we call Fund 20 for you guys. Like when we sell a property, that would go into Fund 20 and be used for sites.
Gotcha. That would go back and could only be used in the capital funding portion of.
It could only be used for, yes.
Getting a very,
Correct.
very big head nod from.
Yes. Fund 20 is
Scherzer.
only used for us as site improvements within capital projects.
Perfect, okay. And then on the other question, Member Bybee had, I understand that the cost of the improvement for the land could be substantial. Do you have the breakout so that we actually know where we're looking at, school versus school? Because right now we're not looking at apples to apples, we're looking at apples and oranges. So what's the cost of what's our projected and budgeted cost for the
I do have
improvement?
a cost. I didn't bring those with us. As I said, coming groups helped us with the cost estimate and all that. There is a breakdown, and if that's something you would like me to share, I definitely can. I'm sorry I didn't bring that with me.
Yeah, just to make sure that it just, like you mentioned, it just helps us with the public when they go, well, why do we, over, I mean, when you add it up, Pulakitas, when we started that in 2019, from there to 2023, the J Wood Raw, we had a 25% increase in the cost of construction. In construction, I think, we all saw that happening. But I don't think anybody thinks we've got a 25% increase going to happen in the next phase of it. So yeah, if we could have a
Yeah,
breakout,
it's
so
broken out there.
because obviously if it was, if it's a $5 or $6 million site improvement cost, then we're right back in line with where we've been at, and I don't think anybody's got an issue with that. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, there's escalation in this. I'll put in there. The owner's contingency is in there. Cummings comes up into like a 46, whatever. We have the professional services, the FF&E. We're looking at 52. If you look at those numbers that are up there,
Sure.
We go out a little bit higher. It comes in a little bit lower. I have to go through a range and make sure that we have enough funding just looking at it as well.
Do you have a rough recollection of, I don't want to pin you down, but do you have a rough recollection of what the site improvement cost was?
I do not. So, yeah, as I said, I will be happy to share that with you.
We'll share it with the committee when
Yes.
in an email so that you guys are aware of what that site cost is for
That'd be
that
great.
school.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for your willingness to share that with all of us. I think that'll be helpful. Member Dis?
Thank you, Chairman. Just real quick, I'm assuming Silver Dollar is just a placeholder name, and the school naming committee is going to come up with something.
Correct.
It's not like
Yeah.
Garrett Horton said
We're-
it has to be
we're-
Silver Dollar.
No, it does not have to be Silver Dollar. We were calling it Silver Dollar in the beginning. We decided to change it to the Newstead area. I know that rendering says Silver Dollar, but that is not the official name.
Okay.
It's just on Silver Dollar Road right now.
And then a couple meetings ago, this committee, we got an update on projected enrollment numbers, and it looks like this school isn't substantially bigger than the existing school. We're only adding 2,000 square feet and 2 classrooms. District thinks that we don't need to go bigger.
Based off the projections and what we're seeing out there, we believe that these 2 classrooms will be sufficient for them and their special programs because they are a little bit higher in special programs up at that school.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Yes, Mr. Cobb?
Mr. Chacon, hey.
How you doing?
This one is public hard bid, correct, not CMAR?
Correct. It's a
Okay.
hard bid.
So with a hard bid, Cummings has done an estimate, you got a contingency in there?
We do.
10%?
The contingencies in there as 9%.
9%?
9%. I do have a site cost now. It's right in front of me. If you wanted to know, it's 10.5 million. Yep.
So we potentially, depending on how hard bids are, how hungry at the time when we bid this, we might be under, but not, but you're got a contingency built in there to cover us if
That-
we're,
That's
excess.
exactly right.
okay.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
I
Ivory.
know these guys keep asking great questions, and it makes me think, oh, wait, what? So wait a minute, I'm a little confused. The original design was 86,000 square feet. Was that the original design for the Cold Springs Elementary School? Was that the original design for the building that's out there now, or is that the original design for what was going to go on this piece of property, and now we've upped it?
No, so the original designs what we're talking about are the Polakitas, the Bohatch, the Inskeep, and the J Wood Raw. This is an adapted design that we needed 2 extra classrooms, and the reason we need those 2 somewhat existing, the existing Stead Elementary School has special education classes, and that require less student ratio for every teacher, so they're 8-to-1. So we yes, it's not overcrowded and stuff like that, but that ratio just told us that we needed 2 more additional classrooms.
Okay, but we're actually replacing Stead Elementary with this school, so what kind of an increase are we getting over that from Stead Elementary to this new school? Roughly. Is it on there?
Yeah, it's somewhere. Oh, no, We have the projections.
Is it the,
Looking for that.
so it's got to be close to what?
Right, so.
Twice?
So, yeah, just looking at the 738 for capacity, but coming from Stead Elementary School, rezoning, and maybe taking some kids, this was accounted for from the Silver Lake across the highway there, bringing them over there, it just brought our numbers up.
So Stead Elementary currently, last year when we did the rezoning, had about 710 students. This takes into account a few more, right, and giving them the classrooms for those additional special education rooms that they needed.
I didn't realize we had that many kids in Stead Elementary, I guess. So it's packed full.
It's pretty full. They have
Okay.
modulars and mobiles out there, so, right, we're gonna get them into a regular school, into a culture of a school under one roof, which will be a great thing for them.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cobb?
Just to verify, was Stead not one of the baby boomer schools that was originally designed for 500?
It is one of the baby school,
Okay.
right there, designed for the 500, they're at 700. Yeah, the school was built in 1958,
Okay,
it's just one of those older ones.
thank you.
Any, one more question, Member Bybee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if we've got 700 right now at Stead Elementary and we repurpose that, we're only adding 38 extra spots. And I understand that we need the classrooms for the special ed. But with all the growth and all the homes, anybody who drives 395 North sees the amount of homes going in there, and I'm sure the amount of families moving in. Are we going to find ourselves in a pinch and not have capacity that we need? And I think about my corner of town where I've already got, in Stonebrook, our new elementary out there and how fast it filled. I'm just concerned if we're losing, shutting down a school with 700 to only open one with 738, how we're going to handle capacity? Or are we going to be short and overcrowded and wound up moving portables over to the brand new school? And I get a whole new school compared to how long ago it was built. I totally understand that part of it, but are we doing it for having the new school with new amenities and raising the bar? More so than also as important to me that we're looking at overcrowding and how we're going to deal with that.
So we did look at all of that, right? We took all the zones from Silver Lake, Desert Heights, all of those, Lemon Valley, to determine what size this school should be based off the boundaries that we have and what we see in growth there, and the projections for future, right? So we look at them years ahead, not just in today's numbers. And so we feel with the 738 students that we'll be able to maintain that school with the students that we have, possibly do some pocket rezones to add a few more students into there to keep them from crossing Stead. But we also have an outlet at Desert Heights. They have space there. There are other options with those places, those spaces that have growth potential.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I see the other schools out there are looking at renovation, and whether renovation adds space yet to be seen, I'm sure.
Correct. As we work through those with those projects, we'll look at what space they need. We've got Lemon Valley that has a whole rebuild for it, so we could look at space there as well, with adding space for students out in that growth area.
Okay. And then one more quick question as we're talking about the land and the cost. We were given this parcel, correct? So given a parcel from D.R. Horton compared to our other sites of previous schools, that land is not necessarily given to us. How does that factor in our cost for a new school? Because we didn't pay for that. Did we pay, or did we? Did we pay for or did D.R. Horton give us that parcel of land to put the school on?
Right, so we acquired the new site that we're building on now. Prior to that, we owned property in the DR at Horton closer to the freeway. We did an even exchange for that other parcel that we had there. So no money was traded or anything. It was just that we own property, we changed it out for a better site for us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Cobb?
And remind me, educational specs really drive your size for elementary, middle, and high, right?
Correct.
Is
So-
that not the driver of how many we're putting in each school?
I mean, with the ad specs, with the new hubs, with STEAM labs and all that.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, they have a lot of small group learning centers and all that. It does drive on how many kids we put there, but I mean, knowing what it is and looking at the projections, the 738 number is what we came up with.
Okay.
All right, I think that took care of all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to item 2.06, presentation, discussion, design phase funding for the rebuild of Echo Loader Elementary School in the amount of $4 million. And this is presentation, discussion only.
Thank you. For the record, Tammy Zimmerman, Chief Facilities Management Officer. So we're going to talk about the reconstruction of Echo Loader, shown here on the green with the green star. We have many elementary schools in that neighborhood, but in December of 2024, the facility modernization plan had this one as our second school to actually be rebuilt. Loader is recommended for full reconstruction because of its age and of its deficiencies with our ed specs. In February of 2024, the capital funding and the board approved conceptual design funding, and we've completed that stage. So here's the zoning map for all of those schools in there. You can also see that Corbett will be repurposed. We don't know what that will be at this time. It could be something with our community partners. We could envelop it into the property with Worcester High School when we expand that because of that kind of landlocked site there. Veterans is to be repurposed. It is a historical building and will have to stay as it is. It could be repurposed to a community center. It could be a district office. We haven't made any of those decisions yet. Booth will get a reconstruction, is anticipated to be on site, kind of the flip the campus in 2033 to start that. So with Loader, any of the Loader future construction there will have to go through the zoning committee, and there may be a mashup between those schools. They may get some to other schools and some back to Loader. We'll see what those decisions are when we get there. So this is what Echo Loader looks like currently. It is a boomer school. It is it has the 3 wings. It has a big piece of property in the back that is currently used as a soccer field with partnership with the City of Reno for programming after hours. And so what we've done, we have talked with the City of Reno. We're going to flip the campus again, just like we did at Vaughn, what we're proposing to do at many of our other schools. So with that, we've done some conceptual design to make sure that it fits on that property, that we can have circulation, that we can have bus drop-off, that we can provide a playground space for students there, and that it works with the neighborhoods. This is conceptual, what it will look like. We found through conceptual design that we can add classrooms upstairs above the STEAM lab in that to create more classroom space and a 2-story to kind of shorten up that wing to allow as much space as we can for playgrounds and parking. Here's what the conceptual design looks like. And we are going to, at this school, include what they call the mini pitches. Have you guys heard of the mini pitches that the City of Reno has over at is it Tiglia Park and that, where they're smaller soccer fields that are inside fenced areas so that they can partake of it without chasing after their balls all over the place, but it can be used in the evening to kind of replace that soccer field that we will be building on. So trying to give back some of those amenities to the community because our schools are community spaces. So this one is a hard bid. We are going to work with a scheduler once we get there to actually do that instead of a CMAR on this project because we missed the entire building with the way we put the building on the site or attempt to put it on there. It has 4 additional classrooms from our educational specifications because of the population we serve there with their high needs and interventions and special education. They need those additional classrooms. It also helps us with the zoning. We hate to build a building and not be able to zone students into there with the geographical issues that we have with Kitski and Plum Lane in that area. So design phase funding, we're asking for a funding request of $4 million. The services are our typical design phase funding, constructability, commissioning, site survey, roof consulting, all of those. Those are our typical ones that you've seen in the past. You can compare what the ask from Pulikitas to Stead. You know, we've increased a little bit. We are adding additional square footage. so the cost will probably increase a little bit more with that. And so we're asking for $4 million to do that design. H&K is the architect for our double L prototype, and so we would be contracting with them if you guys approve this. The schedule will design from September until June of 2025. Hard bid this project, hopefully get it out and approved in August, and then start construction in September, and then complete in May of 2027 for the actual building for students to come into in August. And then because we'll have to go back and demo the existing building and create those fields and play spaces, those would be completed by the end of the year of 2027 for them. So next steps, construction funding in April. So you'll see us back in April to give you some estimates and ask for construction funding approval for that. And then we'll hopefully award the contract in August or September of 2025 for that.
Thank you, Tammy. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dis?
Tammy, when we did O'Brien, same concept, building on the same site. How did that work out during the school year? During lunchtime when the kids are out, during recess, because we're going to eat up a lot of their playing fields for 2 full school years at this elementary school. So, like, in reality, how does that work for the kids?
So we'll work with the school sites to determine what their needs are, right? We'll have construction fencing up to that. There may still remain some portion of the playground for them. And we'll work with the school to maybe change where their recess times are and where they are able to play for that. But it is going to be somewhat of an inconvenience for some time to not have the full playground for them to be in.
Yeah, I was just thinking elementary kids more than any other kids. I think they're the ones who run around the most and need the space and all that. So let's try to be, and I know you will, just very methodical and keep that in mind with the planning.
We will. We'll work very hard to keep it in mind.
Member Bybee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Tammy, I don't see anywhere in here what our capacity will be with the remodel of this school. What is capacity now versus what? Will it be same? Will it be larger?
It'll be larger. We're adding 4 classrooms to this because we want to make sure that we can take care of the special programs they have. Currently, right, we're going to take that to the zoning committee once we're at that stage. They may be incorporating some of Corbett into their enrollment. And so we've taken that into account and thought about some of the geographical boundaries and what the zoning might look like for that.
But what will be the capacity? What is it currently and what do you anticipate capacity will be with the changes that we're making?
So the capacity, adding another 52 students to that school, or actually more than that, it's 104 students because we estimate 26 students per classroom for that. So it'll be an additional 104 students to that, to Echo Loader.
On top of what is it? I don't know what its current number is.
I'd have to look, I'd have to
looking
go
for-
back and look.
Okay.
I've looked at it, but I don't want to speak off the top of my head. I can provide that to you and give you that information. We did do a lot of that work in preparation for this to make sure that we had enough space.
Okay, because once again, I go back kind of to the last question with 2 schools being repurposed and then this just adding 4 classrooms. I guess I'm sensitive and maybe having gone through incredible growth when my boys were growing up in schools here. So having experienced, real-time life experience with overcrowding in schools, if we're going to repurpose 2 schools that are in this area, how are we going to address that moving forward? And I know this is not a whole new school, it's, an expansion needed, but will it be able to take on through rezoning, what happens, and I know that's down the road a little bit, but how are we really accounting for where we're going to be putting students, and are we going to be back in the same place with portables and not having enough space as we repurpose other schools, or we don't replace or repurpose or delay that? Will that kind of be, is it going to be fluid, I guess, is what I'm looking for?
It will be fluid, right? We're going to build Echo Loader in preparation to repurpose Corbett, right? We know that there's going to be some students that come from Corbett to Echo Loader, but looking at the other repurposes, veterans, right? But we're also going to be rebuilding a brand-new booth. So booth is the same sheep shed that Stead was, so they're about 500. We're going to be creating over a 700 capacity school there to take those students. Same with this one, right? So New Loader has a capacity of 691 students. I don't.
Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Thanks, Tammy. Does the 4 million also include planning of the demolition of the current building?
Correct.
Okay.
It'll all be planned together. It'll all be under one contract because it'll be hard bid, but that design has that included in it as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Cobb.
And same before, just like Stead, any of the repurposing, the district will ideally retain the property and look for those connections with, that way, if we do run into issues, as Ms. Bybee pointed out, we still have that ability to go back to our property.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, it looks like we're finished up with that one. Thank you, Tim. So 2.07, presentation discussion on the full construction phase funding allocation for Ghetto Transportation Yard project in the amount of $4,058,259. And this too is a presentation discussion only.
Thank you. For the record, Tammy Zimmerman, Chief Facilities Management Officer. We're going to talk about central transportation, which we call it central transportation, but the real name is Ghetto Transportation. It's named just like our schools, so want to put that in there so we don't confuse anybody. So we came in December of 2022 for approval of design phase funding for this project, and then received capital funding and board approval in April of 2023. Capital funding updates were brought to you guys last December, so you could see what we were thinking, how we were moving with that. And then we came back in February of 2024 with our funding request number 1. We bid the project. We had some issues with the bids, some abnormalities, and so we canceled the bid because we felt that was in the best interest of the district. So now we're coming back for phase 2, or funding request phase 2, to complete the project all as one bid. So you can see on the screen here, we have phase 1 and 2, which is the east side. You guys approved the fully funded that, as the board approved it as well. And now we're asking to add additional funding on, which is request number 2, which is for phase 3, which is on the west side, which is demolition of the existing building and the pavement and drainage for that side. So the proposed phase plan, again, we bid phase 1 and 2, which is on the east side. And now we're asking for additional funding to complete everything together in phase 3 that's on the west side. Here's just some pictures. They're nice to look at with different materials, colors, of what that building will look like instead of that square white building and that's existing there. This has many amenities for staff, more bus barn area, and a wash for the buses as well attached to it on the other side. So this is construction funding request number 1 that was approved by this committee as well as the board for $45.5 million. The construction estimate is in there for $40 million, professional services and furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. So now we're asking for funding request number 2. As you can see in the column as phase 1 and 2, that is our construction estimate for phase 1 and 2, which we previously put out and canceled the bid on. And have professional services and furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. So that's what our estimate is for phase 1 and 2. The new phase that we're talking about for funding tonight is phase 3. The construction estimate is $8.5 million for that, with professional services and furnishings and fixtures and equipment. So we're mashing it all together as one and asking for a total of $48,035,759. Take the 45.5 off of that, that makes, this should be the 4.5 million presentation, not the other. Do you have it in your packet? We revised it, so I want to make sure that we're correct in this. Let me pull up my hard copy. So the subtotal is $49,558,259. That includes contingency, which we'll need because we have to complete the phase 1 and 2 and then go back and demo the other portion, so it's a year later. So we want to have enough contingency on there to do that. So you approved $45.5 million in funding request 1, which leaves us a total request of $4,058,259.
We have a question, Mr. Ivory, please.
So I'm assuming obviously the corrected amount of the 32.5 million is based on, because if I'm not mistaken, you didn't award, but you did receive bids. So we have a pretty good understanding of where that number's.
Correct. So we've adjusted that to not encumber as much in funding, so we could use it for other things because we know somewhat where we sit with this.
Okay, perfect. Thank
It
you.
just made sense to make that adjustment.
I agree.
So these are the professional services breakdown for phase 3. We will be having a project manager within our department help manage this with some outside consultant as a stopgap for inspections out there for us. The schedule that we have is to bid it in September. We want to hurry up and put it out as soon as we can, and then start construction with the construction contract in January. Construct that. The new building would be complete in April of 2026. And then we'll flip to the parking lot and demolition and finish that in October of 2026. Next step, approval for the construction funding, if you guys approve this today, and then moving on and actually awarding the construction contract in December of 2024.
Thank you, Tammy. Additional questions? Yes. Member Cobb?
Tammy, with this, are we having to do any temporary different parking with the busing just because you're holding off where the shed is now and that's where all the bus parking is?
We've worked with the transportation department to come up with those stopgap parking spaces and that for it. We believe we can fit them on site because we have some additional parking in the back for that.
And then just with the history of our fund there with flooding, I know that got all boxed. Are we elevating the site, getting out of 1 foot above flood zone?
It did get boxed. They're also talking about putting another conditional letter of map revision out. And based off of that estimation, we've increased the height of it by another foot to make sure that we're outside of that conditional letter of map revision. So when it becomes a letter of map revision, we're all set.
Okay. And it looks like we have on-site, so we're capturing our displacement.
Yes.
So we're not impacting anybody else's property, holding it on site, right?
Those are the rules now. We have to take
Yeah.
care of it ourselves. So
Okay.
yes, we are.
Okay.
And we're making sure that it meets what is proposed for those elevations in the
So any of
future.
the neighboring tenants, we can sit here and tell them, no, this will not impact them based on, engineering and numbers.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Ivory.
Okay, just looking at your professional service breakdown, which I want to be the first to say thank you. I like this. Obviously it's the first time I've seen it, so I'm looking for a little guidance. Is basically the number you have in the professional services of the 475,000 for phase 3 is basically this 465 number minus the building permit and utility fees? Is that basically what we're saying?
That's basically what we're saying, yes.
Okay. And then the only other question I have is is that 475K, is that all through the CM, or is that spread out between several different ones?
It's spread out between several different ones, right?
Okay,
We
so
have
this could be
roofing
the-
inspections, we have special inspections, any of that's required.
But that's not included in this number. Like the roofing inspection is phase 3 isn't, because there's no roof, I'm guessing.
Let me get to my sheet.
Unless we gotta get up on the roof that we're tearing down.
No, we're not getting to get up on the roof that we're tearing down. But we've got
But
asphalt
probably best to
inspection.
view that when it's on the ground.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be good. I don't
So-
think I have my sheet.
So we're obviously, our CM isn't doing hazardous material consulting.
Correct, right? You know, we will
They might be
have,
coordinating with them, but
they
they're
may
not
be
doing.
coordinating, but we'll have specifications by a third-party consultant to do that and to give them the actual specifications that they must fall within when they actually demolish it and take that out. So we will have oversight by them to do that work.
But the 475 is basically all the professional services minus your architect and engineer and design team. This is just professional services.
That professional services is minus all the design
Yeah.
items, yes.
These are the boots on the ground, basically.
Correct.
They're on site. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I just have one question. So in phase 1, 2, when you begin that, that side with the Quonset huts on the far east side, and that's the White Fleet maintenance, how are you guys going to be maintaining your White Fleet while that's demolished?
So we moved our white fleet to our South Transportation Center already. And so they have the lifts installed there. That's where they came from. They are a little tight, but we've moved them already so that we can still service our white fleet there.
Okay, awesome. Yes, go ahead, Member Ivory.
Only because it's bugged me for a while. Why do we call this the ghetto? What, is it named after the ghetto family?
It is named
okay,
after
it's
a
not-
family.
It's
It
not
is
just
not-
because this looks like a,
No, it's not GHETTO, it's GETTO.
gotcha. Well, there you go.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, looks like we've gone through that one. Thank you, Tammy. So we'll move on to 2.08, presentation, discussion, possible action to approve $63,358,259 to the 2024-2025 A major project program projects throughout the district, as seen in attachment A, and to forward the recommendation to a future meeting of the Board of Trustees for approval. And this is an action item.
So it's our tally sheet. It's historical. We've got to keep it that way. So you can see all in green is what we're asking for today with the total for the 24-25 A major projects for $60,358,259.
That was simple. Questions? Member Bybee.
Sorry, I just have a comment that I always like looking at what we allocated in the purple and then the check marks on the blue that are under what we allocated. So I know pretty much till we got to Debbie Smith, every school we've been building, everything WC1's funded has come in on time and under budget. And that, as a fiscal conservative and looking at these numbers, really makes me happy. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Yes, we're ready for a motion if you are.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve $60,358,259 to the 24-25 A major projects program.
Thank you, Mr. Dis. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second from Member Bankowski, and we'll go to vote with that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And it passes unanimously. Thank you. And we'll move on to 2.09, discussion possible action to forward to the Board of Trustees for their consideration and approval the Washoe County School District's Capital Improvement Program agreed upon audit procedures report by BDO. And this is an action item as well.
What is this one? Sorry. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. Kirk Starkey, Chief Auditor for the record. Thanks for having me this afternoon. A while back, this committee requested an audit to assess the effectiveness of the district's policies and processes for engaging, managing, and monitoring professional service providers that are contracted to support on capital improvement projects. This includes the architects, the engineers, and the design firms. The audit was completed by the independent firm BDO, and a copy of the report is included as part of your packet. Back in April, I presented the report to the committee where it was decided to table approval until certain policy specifics mentioned in the report could be further reviewed. Since that meeting, we have met with the former committee vice chair and discussed the specific questions in more detail. You may recall that the scope of the audit included all professional service contracts and expenditures incurred on the capital projects during fiscal year 2022. The auditors concluded that the policies and processes for engaging and managing professional service providers are adequately designed and operating effectively, and identified only 2 minor items noted for improvement. Specifically on pages 10 and 14 of the report, the auditors recommended improving the clarity of the language in Administrative Regulation 3323, and also during their document testing, they found 1 consultant amendment form was missing 1 of 3 required signatures. To remedy the 2 matters, the purchasing department plans to work to clarify the services the regulation in question applies to, while the Chief Facilities Management Officer plans to implement a quarterly spot check on the applicable forms. Approximately 6 months from now, our office will follow up with the departments to determine whether the recommendations have been appropriately addressed. In summary, it's my opinion that the results of the report positively reflect the district's efforts in managing the capital improvement projects in this area. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Kurt.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Member Ivory.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank the staff. I know they took time, several of them, while I grilled them for an afternoon. So I appreciate their patience with me. As a member, I feel as though we really do have not only a great staff, but we've got a really good procedure on how they let these projects go. Tammy is going to send me over, and we're going to have maybe just one follow-up meeting, just kind of some questions that came up in our first meeting. She's going to run through some things, but it would be my recommendation that we approve this audit and send it to the trustees.
All right, thank you, Member Ivory, and I just want to say thank you for helping all of us as a group to see some of those things that potentially are missing, and then likewise, what's so nice to see is that not only are we doing our job, but we're also able to see that all of the school district employees that are working on this are doing a great job as well. So thank you very much for the presentation. And so did you want to put that in a form of a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the audit as is.
Okay, so we have a first from Member Ivory. Do we have a second?
Second.
Member Dis? We have a second from him. And then all those in favor? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Just want to say I think this is super important because it goes back to the transparency, and it goes back to really all of us on this committee made to the voters when they approved WC1 that our oversight as well as the Board of Trustees was important. So really more transparency. We can't have enough transparency to really show that we're spending money responsibly, that we are doing all these checks and balances. So thank you to staff and to you for all of the work. It's a lot of work, but I think it's really important. So thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for the comments. So we'll go ahead. We have a first and a second. We'll go ahead and take it to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? And it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to closing items, number 3.01, public comment. Do we have any public comment? No, we do not. And 3.02, announcement of next meeting, October 3rd, 2024. Is that working out? We'll see y'all on October 3rd. Got it? And with that, we adjourn the meeting. Thank you.